Well, joining me now in our Lagos studio, I have the Chief Executive Officer of Finance with Mukta Mohammed. Good to have you on the show today.
Thank you, David.
Now, first and foremost, going by the success of Akinwumi Adesina's first term as president of the AfDB, has set new agenda now, looking at regional industrial value chain competitiveness of Africa's financial markets and also addressing the current infrastructure financing gaps. What do you make of this new agenda, and how achievable is this, looking at the fact that we're still trying to recover from the COVID-19 pandemic? Yes, it's a 5-year tenure, but it's quite a start.
Yeah, I'm so excited with him because he seems to be very focused. He knows the African problem. His African Development Bank is for Africans. And the process that led to his election also gives him a lot of impetus to say, this is what I want to do. Now, when you look at this policy, I think the other way around we should begin to think about, which I expect Adesina to do now, is to move it beyond partnership with government, to move it to become partnership with businesses if we are to survive this pandemic, because government were affected, but mostly are businesses. So we begin to see how African Development Bank should work with businesses rather than working with the government, because we are in the fourth industrial revolution whereby businesses do partnership with countries. Before it used to be country to country, but now we see businesses doing partnership with countries. So I think that is what we should be seeing in the African Development Bank, whereby there should be a direct communication link using the government as a medium to reach to these people and see how they can directly intervene in some of these key drivers that he's trying to push, and also looking at the pandemic and how African Development Bank can help Africa out of this pandemic. And I think the best way they could do that is to directly intervene and liaise with businesses than governments.
Well, liaising with businesses than government is also a way forward. But now let's also look at the model to be adopted in terms of sustainable debt management systems. At this point in time, what should be the direction in developing a stronger base to be able to support the continent's economy?
I think the continent itself have not done justice to African Development Bank. I think we've not patronized them well enough to get loans from them, because only Nigeria that seems to be having loans from them, and their rate in loan is even better than what African government runs to China to get. So some of these projects that we give to Chinese, can we begin to see how we can partner with African Development Bank, because they have the financial might, they have other shareholders that are Europeans, and Americans also are shareholders. So we should begin to look at how we can partner with them, because their own loans, the last time Akinwumi Adesina was saying that their own loan settlement and their own loan in terms of payment schedule and everything is better than what the African government gets from China. So I think the African government should begin to look at how they can begin to get loans from African Development Bank rather than running to China, running to the World Bank, running to IMF. They should begin to think, how can we partner with African Development Bank? In the interim, to African Development Bank should also be thinking of how to build their capacity so that they will be able to meet some of these demands that the African countries will be coming for. Because why African countries are going to China is not because they want China, because China has the financial might to meet up to their demands. So that is what I think he should be doing. Like he said, building capacity, he said it as part of his agenda. And I think they should work on that, try to increase the shareholding structure to African Development Banks and African banks. So we should get Africans at the highest shareholder rather than getting some other country. Because as it stands now, Nigeria is just the highest shareholder in African Development Bank. And we still have South Africa also as a major economy. We have the Egypt also, but they are not really putting in more muscles into the space.
And talking about the agenda that already has been set in terms of addressing the infrastructural financing gap we currently have in Africa. At this point in time, for so many analysts like yourself, you say it's time to explore the capital market much more aggressively.
Yes, I agree with you, David. It's time for the African Development Bank to exploit the capital market. And if they are listed in the New York Stock Exchange, they are listed in the Luxembourg Stock Exchange, I think they should think about listing themselves in African biggest stock exchange. We have the South African Stock Exchange, we have the Nairobi Stock Exchange, we have the Nigerian Stock Exchange. I think those are exchanges that have been at par in terms of world class. I think it will be good for African development belongs to Africans, so we should begin to see how Africa can become part owners of this bank, run this bank. If Africa were really the owners of this bank, we wouldn't have had the kind of issues we have, because the ethics committee has already cleared it, but because one of the largest shareholders outside Africa felt otherwise, they had to bring. So we'll begin to see how Africa can take ownership of the African Development Bank, because I don't see any reason why they are listed in the London Stock Exchange and they are not listed in any of African topmost stock exchanges. I think that it should be what the current president should be trying to do, to see if they can be listed in 2 of Africa's most vibrant exchanges, maybe Nigerian Stock Exchange and also the South African Stock Exchange, where through there they could get funding to do other major projects for Africans and make Africans become part ownership of these banks.
Okay. Now, we also made mention of the tripod that's looking at stronger institutions and strengthening human capacity, as well as overall delivery. This is in terms of implementation of policies. This is expected to transform the development landscape in Africa. How crucial is this tripod in holding the growth prospects we have, especially as we are trying to still maneuver our way through the COVID-19 impact we've seen so far?
I think the first thing they should try to do, they should try to see how Africans can do businesses together. Before you talk of integration, you need to look at what volume of businesses are we doing together. So most businesses, Africans do most business with Asians, with North Americans, with Europeans, than even within themselves. So I think it should begin to think, that's why I agree with this infrastructural and financial inclusion, whereby if we can build the infrastructure whereby we can begin to see how we can do businesses within ourselves, then we build the volume of business within ourselves, then that is where you have true integration. And I think that is what he should work on, how we can build big businesses within ourselves, trade volume within ourselves, moving of goods and services within the continent. Not that not the type of goods or services that we see now, whereby you bring maybe you import a car from Europe and put it in Benin, in Cotonou, and then you bring it into Nigeria. No, I'm talking about an African product that was made in Cotonou, brought into Nigeria, a Nigerian product. So let's begin to see how we can do businesses together. Then that's where we see the true integration. That's where capacity building will come to play in it. But if we continue to depend on the European trade, then the African Development Bank can only just become like a midwife in terms of giving funding to some of the growth of little business within Africa.
We definitely need to look more intensively into regional trade policies and what agreements we've signed, looking at within the West African region, the southern part of the continent, and much more. At the end of the day, we just have to have a business climate that is conducive and ready to make the African continent thrive as a whole. We cannot just do this in silos. Thank you very much for your time on The Breakfast Show today, Dr. Mohammed.